My name is Meredith Clayson. I am the Associate Director of our Center for East European and Russian Eurasian Studies, usually just reduced to its acronym, CERES. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this performance on behalf of CERES and International House. I'd like to take just one moment to thank International House for including this event in their Global Voices Performing Arts series and for handling all of the important details that make the performance possible. I'd also like to put in a plug for another Russian music event. The University of Wisconsin Russian Folk Orchestra will perform in this very room this coming Saturday evening at 7 p.m., also as part of the International House Global Voices series. I hope I will see you again on Saturday. Incidentally, both of these performances are part of a longer 16-month citywide festival called the Soviet Arts Experience. And if you're not familiar, there are many, many wonderful things upcoming on their calendar. And they have a beautiful website, sovietartsexperience.org, so check it out. Now, without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce you to our guests, Oleg Kruglyakov and Terry Boyarsky, the artists comprising the ensemble Russian Duo. Russian Duo is an international project born out of a love of traditional music and classical elegance. Their collaboration highlights the mysterious sounds of the balalaika, underscored by the vast expressive range of the piano. Featuring vocals and Russian percussion, their extensive repertoire draws from Russian folk music, romances, dances, classical music, gypsy melodies, and Russian songs. Since the inception of Russian Duo in 2007, Oleg and Terry have performed throughout the United States, and we are so glad that they are willing to be here with us this evening. Please join me in welcoming Russian Duo to the University of Chicago.
Добрый вечер, здравствуйте. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oleg. I come from Siberia, Russia. My partner's name is Terry Boyarsky. She is from Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And together we are a Russian duo. We see ourselves as international project because we come from different parts of the world, from different cultures, but trying to play together. And we just played for you very famous Russian folk tune called "Заиграй моя волынка" or "Play My Bagpipes." But unfortunately, we didn't bring our bagpipes with us tonight. So we played it on this wonderful grand piano and on this unusual instrument called, some of you probably know how it's called, balalaika. Let's repeat all together, balalaika. Once again, balalaika. That was much better. So should I tell you a little bit of history of my instrument so it's more interesting to listen? Okay, balalaika is a Russian folk instrument. It's pretty old. First pictures of balalaikas came to us from 9th century, and first writings about balalaikas dated by 17th century. A very interesting thing that they were found in sort of like police report of those days. It was police report from one police department to another, I guess in Moscow, about two drunk peasants. They were going through city gates of Moscow. They were playing balalaika. They were singing songs, and they were cursing gate guards. So they've got charged for that, and balalaika was confiscated, of course, and both of them were sent to Siberia for the rest of their lives. And this fact gives me a good idea about my predecessors too, sometime. So at the same time, I mean, from this report we can see that balalaika was popular instrument among peasants, among lower class of the society, and there was lots of peasants in Russia. Probably more than 90% of population were peasants. And lots of them were playing balalaikas, domras, guslis, gudkis, and many other Russian folk instruments. And it was happening until one Russian Tsar, whose name is Alexei Mikhailovich. He was second one from Romanov's dynasty. He decided that it's too much fun. Russian people not religious enough. And as you might know, Russia wasn't a Christian country. Always. There was a pagan tradition in Russia, and how people were keeping pagan traditions as well is by playing on musical instruments and by singing songs. So this Russian Tsar decided, let me make them more Christian, let me make them more religious. And he ordered to destroy all musical instruments and then become illegal, forbidden to play. And if you play musical instrument, you can be punished. So actually, I'm holding in my hand something very illegal from 17th century. So when all balalaikas, domras, and other Russian folk instruments were collected and burned, and balalaika, as well as other instruments, disappeared from Russian culture for almost 2 centuries. Then other Russian Tsar, Peter the Great, he allowed to play instruments again, and balalaika was right there. Nobody knows why, maybe because it was most popular instrument among Russian people, or maybe it was most primitive one and very easy to build, because as you might see, it has triangular shape, so you don't have to use any sophisticated tool to make one. You can chop it with your axe, and Russian people were very good with axe. So you chop it twice, chop, chop, and you've got balalaika. So it's just 3 strings, and you play it by fingers. You don't have to use any sophisticated picks, just your naked fingers. So balalaika was right there, people start playing again, and maybe I will demonstrate to you how balalaika played. As I said, I'm using just fingers, and main way to play balalaika is strumming, and it sounds like that. Thank you. Also, it's possible to make simple accompaniment if you're singing, and there are very popular type of singing in Russia called chistushkas. А ты под горка, широкая улица, да по тебе никто не ходит, ни петух, ни курица. По тебе никто не ходит, ни петух, ни курица. And also it can be very funny too, if you know a few tricks, something like that. So this is how peasants were playing, approximately. But also, we can find traces of balalaika in Russian court as well. There was a famous musician who was playing for Russian Tsar and Russian nobles in a court musician. His last name is Khandoshkin. He was actually first Russian violin virtuoso because when he was teenager, he went to Italy and studied violin playing with famous Italian virtuoso Tartini. So he came back and started teaching other Russian people, and that's how Russian violin school started actually. But his second favorite instrument was balalaika.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 minute.
Sure.
That balalaika lineage goes all the way to Yasha Heifetz.
Oh, you mean violin lineage?
Yeah, violin lineage. From Tartini to Khandoshkin to Yasha Heifetz.
Yeah, you can see it
Yeah.
even like
Direct lineage.
direct same lineage. But also, this guy played balalaika as well. And he was popular with his balalaika in Russian court. And very important thing that he started playing classical music as well as Russian folk tunes. And we would like to demonstrate this kind of music for you too and play Menuet written by Boccherini. So continue with balalaika history, how balalaika became a concert instrument finally. It happened because at the end of the 19th century, there was a Russian gentleman living in St. Petersburg. His name was Vasili Andreyev. And he was musician, violin player, piano player, and pretty good composer as well. So once he was traveling in Russia, in some of the villages, he saw how simple old peasant was strumming his primitive 5 frets triangular balalaika, and he fell in love with this instrument and decided, let me bring balalaika on stage and make it the concert instrument. So he took this primitive 5 frets balalaika, brought it back home, and started thinking how to make it more modern, more sophisticated instrument. So finally he came up with this idea of 24 frets balalaika with pretty complicated construction, pretty complicated body made from different sort of woods. And actually, he created whole family of balalaikas. There is 6 of them right now. Then he modernized domras as well and created first Russian folk orchestra. They start playing in St. Petersburg, first concert they gave, it was 1887. And it was great success, especially among professional musicians in St. Petersburg. It was so successful that, for example, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, famous Russian composer, who wrote this first piano concerto, but he started this piece for balalaika and orchestra actually, because he was so impressed with balalaika orchestra. Of course, he didn't know how to continue. I mean, he started it and it was hard to continue because he didn't know well this instrument. An instrument is pretty tricky to play, has limited range, so he switched to piano, which was more familiar to him. Also, Vasili Andreyev was good composer, as I said before, and he was the first one who started creating music for balalaika, and one of the first pieces he created was written for balalaika and piano. And we would like to play one of them called Waltz Balalaika. So when Vasili Andreyev, who considered nowadays as father of balalaika, get all his ideas and blueprints, so next step was to find good music master, good luthier, to build actually first concert balalaika, and it was different task, because every other music master living in St. Petersburg, who Vasili Andreyev tried to hire, they were refusing to make balalaikas because they thought it might ruin their reputations, because balalaika wasn't considered as musical instrument. They was saying like, this is not a music, we're sorry, but we cannot make one. So finally, Vasili Andreyev was able to find a gentleman who actually took this order and built first concert balalaika. And this gentleman was a Polish gentleman living in Russia, in St. Petersburg, but he was from Poland originally. His name was Franz Poserbsky. And actually it's interesting fact, because first concert Russian balalaika was made by Polish guy. And probably that's why we always including in our program a piece of Polish music, piece of music from Poland. And today it will be Polonaise, written by Mikhail Aginsky, who was famous politician in 18th century. And actually he was, one time he was even fighting against Russians, but then he became Russian senator. And he died in Italy. But he spent a few years living in Europe, because he had to immigrate after famous Kostyushka uprisal. When it's failed, he immigrated to the Europe and spent a few years living in Europe. And that's when he wrote this Polonaise. It's also called Nostalgia for the Motherland. So this Polonaise became very popular in Russia and very famous.
So we would like to give you an example of a classical piece, written, of course, long after all these stories. It's a piece by Schubert, and it's called Serenade or Stanchen. Originally, it was written for baritone and piano. And Fritz Kreisler made an arrangement of this for violin and piano, and Oleg's balalaika professor, who is still alive, made an arrangement yet again for balalaika and piano. We would like to play Schubert. Are you still okay with classical music? Okay, we're going to have a little test. Do you know it yet? So do you know it? You recognize it? Yes. It is Rachmaninoff.
Exactly.
Yes, and what piece? It's not a piano concerto because I have no orchestra. It's a prelude. It's one of his many beautiful preludes that he wrote for solo piano. So while Rachmaninoff was over in Russia writing beautiful piano music, in America, in the popular idiom, they were writing piano music too. But does anyone know what style? 1920s?
Ragtime music.
Ragtime music. So you all know about Scott Joplin, but you probably never heard of George Cobb. And George Cobb was, someone told me, a Scotsman, but he was writing ragtime music in America. He heard this piece by Rachmaninoff and decided to take those musical ideas and create a new piece, which he called Russian Rag. Well, we'd never heard of this piece, but a friend of ours, who's a mandolin aficionado, said, well, you're the Russian duo, you should know the Russian Rag. So he loaned us his CD, and since we like international projects and international collaborations, it really appealed to us because the CD was recorded in the Philippines with the Filipino Mandolin Orchestra conducted by a Russian immigrant who was living in America. So we liked the piece, and we found the PDF on the internet, the original piano music. We took it and transposed it and transcribed it, and here's our latest incarnation of the Russian Rag, interpolating the world-famous prelude by Rachmaninoff.
I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy, Yankee Doodle Doodle boy, real life nephew of my Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July. I've got a Yankee Doodle sweetheart, she's my Yankee Doodle joy. Yankee Doodle came to London just to ride the ponies. I am a Yankee Doodle boy. Thank you. Yes, Terry is asking me if I'm ready to sing. Yes, I am.
Don't you think he should sing? Yes, yes.
Yeah, because, I worked hard with my naked fingers, and now they are shaking, you see? It means I've got tired and cannot play anymore.
Aw.
And if you cannot play, what are you doing? You're singing, so I have to sing.
Yeah. Sing a Russian romance.
Okay, I will. And Russian romance is very, very popular type of Russian songs. It's still popular. And one we will sing and play called «Я встретил вас», I met you. And there is beautiful poetry, but it's in Russian. And maybe it will be a good idea for you, Terry, to read this poetry translation in English first, and then we will do it.
I met you, and the past came back to life in my dead heart. Remembering a golden time, my heart became so warm. Just as in late autumn there are days, the transient hour, when suddenly spring wafts again and something stirs within us. So winnowed within by the breath of fullness my soul knew in those years, with a rapture I thought I'd forgotten, I stare into your dear face. As if we'd been apart for ages, I stare at you and think I'm dreaming, and suddenly sounds unsilenced in me could be heard within me, but louder. That was more than reminiscence. My life began to talk once more, as did in you that very same charm, as did in my soul that very same love.
Я встретил вас, и все былое в отжившем сердце ожило. Я вспомнил время золотое и сердцу стало так тепло. Я вспомнил время золотое, и сердцу стало так тепло, как поздней осени порою бывают дни, бывает час, когда повеет вдруг весною, и что-то встрепенется в вас, когда повеет вдруг весною, и что-то встрепенется в вас. Thank you.
I don't know, maybe we should cheer them up.
Yes, I think so, because it was Puri said music partner. I
So-
started
Cry?
to cry almost.
So let's do another international collaborative story here.
Let's try.
So we would like to go to a different country from Russia or America.
Where are we going, partner?
Well, let's pick Hungary tonight. We always have different countries we like to play, but tonight I think it'll be Hungary. And what's the most famous dance in Hungary is the csardas. And a csardas has lots of different moods: fast, slow, melismatic, recitative. And this is a famous csardas written by Vittorio Monti, who is Italian. So I think he was more known for this Czardas than for his operas. But in any case, this is our version of the Vittorio Monti Czardas. Well, I guess we better go back to Russia.
Let's go back to
All
Russia.
right.
And there is very famous Russian tune called Kalinka in Russia. It's pretty simple.
Kalinka, 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 Maya.
Simple melody, very popular. But we are going to play concert variations on this melody, on this simple melody. Those variations were written by Vera Gorodovskaya, who was a gusli player. And gusli is another Russian folk instrument with many strings. There is few types of them. And she was playing a big version of gusli. Looks like a table with many strings on top. And she was arranging music for gusli, for orchestras, and she was writing music and making transcriptions. But for some reason, these concert variations she created for balalaika and orchestra. Of course, we didn't bring our orchestra with us tonight too. And we are going to play this melody on balalaika and piano. Kalinka. So looks like we have to finish our program soon, and I'm always usually I'm always singing at the end of our program because I like to sing, and I like to sing this particular song. And this song is from Urals. Urals are mountains, as you might know. They are the oldest mountains on Earth. And also I would like to sing it with your help as well, because this is a folk song, so it implies participation. We brought with us few Russian folk instruments. This one called trishotkas. Very easy to play, you just shaking it. So we have few trishotkas and few tambourines. So it will be a usual song structure like verse and chorus, and it will be helpful if you help us on chorus. Let's practice a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Hoppa.
If you don't have an instrument, you can clap or tap or whistle. Yeah, I said if they didn't have an instrument, they could join in. Anyway.
Sounds pretty good. I feel almost like in Russia. So let's try our song.
So here's the idea. I am going to sing in Russian, with Oleg, but only on the chorus. So he'll sing solo the verse, and when I join in on the chorus, you join in with the percussion instruments.
Ready? Ой, Kalina. Come on. Ой, Kalina, да ой, малина, а в речке талая вода. А ты скажи, скажи, Калина, как попала ты сюда? Расскажи, скажи, Калина, как попала ты сюда? Как-то раннею весною парень бравый прискакал, долго мною любовался, а потом с собой забрал. Долго мною любовался, а потом с собой забрал. Эх ты, он хотел за землю, да ухватилась, встала на ноги свои и навсегда здесь поселилась, где щебечут соловьи. Ой, калина, да ой, малина, в речке талая вода. Эй, расскажи, скажи, калина, как попала ты сюда? Расскажи, скажи, калина, как попала ты сюда? Эй, ты, все. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was our program for tonight. And if you would like to know more about our project, feel free to visit us on the web. Our website address is www.russianduo.com. And we have lots of information about ourselves, about our instruments, about our music. And also, we have our first album recorded last year. You can purchase it right after this concert or through the website. Thank you very much again. You were a great audience. It was our pleasure to play for you tonight. And it was our pleasure to play together with you too.
And thank you, Series, for inviting us. Thank you, University of Chicago and International House. Good night, everyone.
Good night.